on Y News. Big-time rollback in pump prices of petroleum products seen next week. Bayan Muna and Makabayan Bloc files third petition against MMDA's policy ban of provincial buses along EDSA. President Rodrigo Duterte defends the 5 billion peso fund diversion for pilgrimage of some Marawi City residents. LRT2 operation suspended earlier today due to technical problems. Facebook is no longer allowing pre-installation of its apps on next-generation Huawei phones. And Wish 1075's online competition returns with a new concept for Season 3. Good evening. Several light rail transit passengers experienced inconvenience as they took a train ride this morning. Authorities say they asked the passengers to get off the train as part of a safety protocol. Joanano tells us why.
Engineers and the technical team of the Light Rail Transit or LRT Line 2 discovered a hairline crack on the railway earlier today. This prompted the Light Railway Transit Authority or LRTA to suspend the LRT2 operations. According to LRTA spokesperson Attorney Hernando Cabrera, several passengers were offloaded from the train while others were not allowed to enter the stations as the management suspended the train operations for more than an hour.
So nakita na may hairline crack. Hairline lang naman. And usually, meron tayong procedure, naglalagay tayo ng clamp, doon kinalagyan natin ng clamp yan. Or, minsan, depende sa location ng crack na yon kasi may mga fastening devices tayo yan eh. So, all these things that happened kanina, part ito ng safety protocol natin.
Some passengers said they just left the LRT Anona station in Quezon City when the train suddenly stopped. After several minutes, the train returned to the station and offloaded the passengers. The engineers and technical team immediately fixed the technical problem. At past 11 a.m., the LRT2 resumed its operation. The LRTA has yet to identify the number of passengers affected by the glitch earlier. The LRTA apologized for inconvenience to passengers, but emphasized that their measure is part of their safety protocol. On another note, the result of the fact-finding report on the collision of two LRT trains last month has been submitted to the LRTA. Attorney Cabrera has yet to disclose the probable cause of the incident as authorities continue to investigate the case.
Problema natin, doon sa sinong may kasalanan na stage, may certain procedure na yan prescribed by the Civil Service Commission. So, papasok na yung mga lawyers dyan, may mga certain rights na na-involve yan. And definitely, since may kaso na siya or part na siya ng tinatawag natin na procedure under the Civil Service Commission, may mga restrictions na rin pagdating sa kung ano yung mga pwede naming sabihin.
Joanano, UNTV News and Rescue, Pasig City.
Oil companies will implement a big-time oil price rollback next week. Monokson reports why.
Motorists are reminded to wait for next week before loading up their gas tank full as a big-time oil price rollback looms the week ahead. Industry players estimate that the price rollback will be nearly 3 pesos. A 2 pesos and 82 centavos per liter rollback for gasoline and 2 pesos and 71 centavos per liter price slash for diesel may be expected. Gasoline stations might implement an early price rollback on Sunday, while others will implement the adjustment on Tuesday. Earlier this week, oil companies implemented a 1 peso price rollback and more than a 6 peso decrease in the price of liquefied petroleum gas or LPG. One of the reasons for the big-time price rollback is the slowdown in the economy of the United States and China. Because of the US-China trade war, crude consumption has gone down, affecting its price. Crude price is expected to decline if President Donald Trump continues imposing sanctions on countries such as Venezuela, Mexico, Iran, and China, among others. According to an economic expert, China is strategically moving to counter the US sanction by cooperating with Russia.
We have problems with sanctions, the Chinese have problems with trade, so therefore our strategic interests are allied at the top levels, which is basically let's resist US pressure, hegemony, and so forth. So that's essentially what they want to demonstrate.
Saudi Arabia have decided to cut their production because of deficiency in demand and to not lose economic profit.
Our preference is to maintain production management to keep inventories on their way, declining gradually, softly, but certainly declining towards normal levels.
The Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, or OPEC, plan to meet end of June to discuss if they will continue to curb oil production. Mon Hokson, UNTV, News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Another petition to stop the implementation of provincial bus ban in EDSA was filed before the Supreme Court today. In its petition, Makabayan Bloc Congressman and Bayan Muna Chairperson Nery Colmenares argues that the Metro Manila Development Authority has no police and legislative powers to impose such a prohibition. The petitioners also said the MMDA exceeded its powers when it issued a regulation prohibiting or revoking the issuance of business permits to all bus terminals and operators along EDSA. They are asking the court to issue a temporary restraining order against the provincial bus ban. Two separate but similar petitions were previously filed by Ako Bicol Party List and Albay Representative Joey Salceda. An environmental group explains how crucial the government's role is in minimizing the impact of climate change, especially in the Philippines. Ray Pelayo will tell us why.
Greenpeace Philippines urges the Philippine government to review its policies on carrying out its commitment to the 2015 Paris Agreement that aims to limit the rise in global temperature to 1.5 degrees Celsius. The Environmental Campaign Group notes that instead of reducing the country's coal-fired power plants, there are tens of new plants to be established.
Unfortunately, ang direksyon ng ating bansa ay patungo sa mas maruming paggawa ng enerhiya. In fact, based on latest data, merong sa pipeline na 13 na mga coal plants na itatayo sa buong Pilipinas.
Experts identify coal plants as the primary contributor to global warming.
Ang sinabi ng gobyerno natin, 70% ang ibabawas natin sa ating emissions by 2030. So that would mean na malaki ang babaguhin natin sa plano sa usapin ng enerhiya, sa usapin ng transportation para maabot ito.
Based on the December 2018 record of the Department of Energy, there are 43 coal-fired power plants connected to the Philippine grids. On the other hand, the Department of Environment and Natural Resources note that there are only 34 coal plants issued with environmental compliance certificate. Greenpeace explains how coal plants pose danger to the public.
Kasi usually ang mga coal plants nasa coastline. Imagine nyo, sa La Union, sa Bataan, tatayuan ng coal power plant, tabi ng mga tourist area. So that's very dangerous.
The group also shows that the cost of solar energy is now only 2.99 pesos per kilowatt hour, which is cheaper than the 3.5 pesos per kilowatt hour on coal. Greenpeace adds that even the cost of windmill is not far from the cost of coal. The Manila Electric Company, or Meralco, plans to add renewable energy source of 1,000 megawatt, which will take 5 to 7 years. Last Monday, both Chamber of Congress ratified House Bill number 8197, or the bill that gives 25 years of franchise to the company Solar para sa Bayan to supply electricity to remote areas using renewable energy. Meanwhile, Greenpeace emphasized the importance of sending Philippine representatives to the climate change forums.
Mas walang mangyayari kung wala tayo dun sa climate negotiations. Kasi ang Pilipinas, tayo ang nangunguna sa pagtutulak na mas maraming aksyon, mas maraming solusyon, at kung mawala tayo sa equation, di hamak mas walang mangyayari sa pag-usap na ito.
This comes after President Rodrigo Duterte mentioned during his address in the 25th Nikkei conference in May that climate change conferences have not accomplished anything and just waste of time and money of the people. While Foreign Affairs Secretary Teddy Locsin Jr. in a tweet rejects participation in talks on climate change that require air travel. Ray Pelayo, UNTV, News and Rescue, Quezon City.
The Commission on Human Rights, or CHR, hopes the Philippines will still be active in climate change prevention, despite its non-attendance in climate change conferences. The CHR says the Philippines' participation in the talks is important since the country is directly affected by climate change. This is the reaction of CHR after Foreign Affairs Secretary Teddy Locsin decided not to send a delegation in climate conferences and to participate only through online communication. The Commission also encourages the government to exhaust all avenues to help in resolving climate change. Wish 1075 has started its search for the next singing sensation through the third season of the biggest online singing sensation in the country, Wish Covery. Mirasol Abogadil will tell us why.
Wishers, it's your time to shine, because Wish 1075 has opened the auditions for the third season of the biggest online singing competition in the country, Wish Covery, dubbed as Wish Covery Originals. The competition seeks the next online singing sensation who can also write his or her own songs. Wish Covery Originals is open to all Filipino, solo, duo, group, or band musicians 18 years old and above. Auditionees must have their own independently created, unpublished original compositions and must not be signed under any record label prior and during the audition period and competition proper. To join, shoot your audition video featuring your original song in high definition or HD. Fill out a Wish Covery submission form found on the Wish 1075 website and attach your audition video in MP4 or MOV format. The deadline for submission of audition videos is on June 30, 2019. From the auditionees, Wish 1075 will choose 10 pre-qualifiers from each region: the National Capital Region, Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. They will have the chance to perform on the iconic FM booth on wheels, the Wish Bus. Though the concept of the third season of Wish Covery differs from its first two installments, which focused on the singers, the Wish Covery Originals still uplifts the advocacy of Wish 1075 to promote original Filipino music, discover new talents, and serve as a platform for aspiring singers. So Wishers, what are you waiting for? Perform, record, and be Wish covered. Mirasol Abogadil, UNTV, News and Rescue.
Up next on Y News. President Rodrigo Duterte insists that he was serious when he threatened to wage war against Canada over its smuggled trash issue. The Senate and House seek to investigate alleged ghost dialysis treatment paid by PhilHealth. Facebook is no longer allowing pre-installation of its apps on next-generation Huawei phones.
Malacanang has said that President Rodrigo Duterte's statement of a threat of war against Canada over their waste containers was just a figure of speech, but the chief executive said it was no joke. Rosalie Cos will tell us why.
After 69 Canadian waste containers were shipped back to Canada, the chief executive made a statement. President Rodrigo Duterte emphasized he was not joking when he said he would declare war against Canada over the North American country's waste containers that illegally entered the Philippines in 2013 and 2014.
Ang basura. It's a matter of respect. Kung gawain mo lang akong basurahan dito, at akala nila nagbibiro ako. Sabi ko sa kanila, isauli ko yan, pag hindi tayo nagkaintindihan, I will declare war.
The palace said the president's statement was just a figure of speech, an expression of outrage, while giving Canada an ultimatum. But the chief executive said a war is really possible if Canada did not take action against the Philippines' complaint.
Whether I like it or not, you have accept your garbage because I'm going to send it to you and I'll just discharge it in your water. Arestuhin ninyo yung sundalo ko. Gira tayo. Yan ang ibig kong sabihin.
The Philippines had to recall the Philippine diplomats in Canada when tensions arose over the waste containers issue. The government also issued a travel ban to Canada for the government officials and employees. But when the Canadian waste containers had been shipped out of the country, the government lifted its directives. Rosa Licoz, UNTV, News and Rescue, Philippines.
Meanwhile, Senator Risa Ontiveros and Bayan Muna Party List Representative Carlos Zarate plan to file a resolution in the 18th Congress to investigate ghost dialysis paid by the Philippine Health Insurance Corporation, or PhilHealth. According to Senator Ontiveros, the funds under the National Health Insurance Program are supposed to empower the people, especially the poor, and bring them closer to affordable and effective health care. She added any misuse of these funds is a betrayal of this vital mission and must be stopped. Meanwhile, Congressman Zarate also plans to refile his bill seeking free dialysis treatment for very poor Filipinos in selected centers in the country. COMELEC Commissioner Luis Tito Guia believes the Duterte Youth Party List should not have been given accreditation as a party list candidate in the May 2019 elections. Aiko Miguel explains why.
According to Commission on Elections, or COMELEC Commissioner Luis Tito Guia, the Duterte Youth Party List lacked some requirements to be accredited as a youth group. For the COMELEC official, the party list group should not have qualified from the start of their filing of Certificate of Nomination and Acceptance, or CONA, for the 2019 midterm polls. Guia was part of a 3-member COMELEC division which had junked the Duterte Youth Party List accreditation.
Pag nagpa-file kasi yung petition, lalo na kung party list, gusto namin kompleto na yung mga papeles that are required under our rules, di ba? Kasi we want to be strict also kasi sa dami ng nag-a-apply, no?
But the group of former National Youth Commission Chair Ronald Cardema had appealed to COMELEC and BANC and later on was accredited and became a part of the party list elections. Despite this, Guia stands firm that the Duterte Youth should not have been accredited.
We dismissed the petition outright. No, that's what we do with other petitions na medyo kulang yung requirements. And then, of course, the aggrieved party can always file a motion for reconsideration. So, nag-file ng motion for reconsideration. Dumating sa NBank, so the Commission on Bank saw things differently. So they reversed the second division decision and dalawa kami nag-dissent doon sa Anbank.
Guia abstained when the Anbank voted last Tuesday for Cardema's substitution bid, but 5 commissioners favored for it. COMELEC Commissioner Rowena Guanzon dissented on the decision.
Kasi ako, I'm abstaining in the one because in the first place, my vote was that, hindi dapat na-credit yung one. Meron kaming legal discussion dyan eh. So, I think let's take the word of Commissioner Guanzon muna. No? Kasi yun naman yung announce kwan dyan. But nothing final yet.
The COMELEC and Bank has not yet decided to make Cardema a nominee of the Duterte Youth Party List. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
The 2019 national and local elections has passed and the 2022 presidential elections is about to come. Based on the country's history, which personalities may be expected to run in the 2022 presidential race. Let's get to know them as Nel Maribohok reports.
The 18th Congress in the Philippines is about to open. The Filipino nation will soon set eyes on new faces in the legislative. It has been usual that familiar and well-known politicians, especially in the Senate, are the ones running for presidency. In fact, based on the country's history, several Philippine presidents came from the upper house of Congress and had been Senate presidents even. From 1919 to 1935, Manuel Quezon was the Senate president before becoming the president of the country in 1935. Manuel Roxas was the Senate leader from 1942 to 1946. Under the Commonwealth, he became the head of the country in 1946. Ferdinand Marcos was the Senate President of the 5th Congress from 1962 to 1965 and turned the highest official of the country in 1965. Other former Senate presidents, however, ran for Philippine presidency but failed. These include Jose Avellino, who ran in the 1949 presidential elections, Jovito Salonga in the 1992 elections, and Manny Villar in the 2010 polls. Based on the trend, those who had become the highest leader of the country were the third highest official of the Philippines first. Is this the reason why issues on the Senate leadership have surfaced since the 2022 elections is almost around the corner? It can be noticed that most winning senatoriables in the recent polls are allies of President Rodrigo Duterte. As the 18th Congress is about to begin, Senate leadership and chairmanships have been the talk of the town. It is said that Senator Cynthia Villar is getting a push from several salons to lead the Senate. Is she a possible contender in the 2022 president elections? During the proclamation rally of Partido Demokratiko Pilipino Lakas ng Bayan or PDP Laban in Bulacan last February, President Duterte signified her support to the Villar family.
One of the factors kung bakit ako pumayag si Speaker. Kaya kung may presidente na suportahan ko, si Speaker. Sabi ko sa kanya kung magtakbo ka, sa iyo ako. Speaker Villar.
The lady senator was thankful for this, but said that 2022 is still years away to think about. Looking at the votes gained by President Duterte and Senator Villar in separate elections, Villar would have a high number of votes as she led the senatorial race. Other names that may run in the 2022 polls have surfaced recently. These are Senator Panfilo Lacson, who does not close his doors to an opportunity to run in the presidential elections. He ran in the 2004 presidential elections but lost to former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. But not all presidents of the country came from high ranks. This has been proved by President Duterte, who was the first Davao City Mayor. This is why the name Sara Duterte Carpio is also talked about. However, the presidential daughter has signified she has no plans of running for president.
Wala din naman na sa aking mga plans yun. Ang plans ko lang talaga is to finish 3 terms as mayor of Davao City. Wala siyang personal na sinabi sa akin about the presidency. Kapag nagkakasama kasi kami, hindi kami nag-uusap ng politics or work. We usually talk about issues in the family.
Whatever the plans of a politician, anything is possible, even the least expected in the Philippine politics. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue, Pasay City.
President Rodrigo Duterte defends Task Force Bangon Marawi's diversion of 5 million pesos worth of funds for the pilgrimage of some Marawi City residents. Rosalie Cos will tell us why.
President Rodrigo Duterte has appealed to the Commission on Audit or COA to understand the culture of Filipino Muslims. This is in relation to COA's directive to the Housing and Urban Development Coordinating Council or HUDC to return the 5 million pesos amount of funds. These funds, intended for Marawi rehabilitation, had been used by the National Commission on Muslim Filipinos to sponsor the annual Islamic pilgrimage or Hajj of some Marawi internally displaced persons last year. President Duterte said Muslims regard this as a fulfillment of a lifetime dream and more important than the construction of their houses and properties damaged during the Marawi siege in 2017. The chief executive made the statement when he delivered his address during the 2019 Eid al-Fitr celebration in Davao City last night.
Understand that. So I am asking COA to reconsider ano ba naman yung 5 million. Actually, that 5 million is worth billions in terms of your kind, I said, generosity to finance the poor people na Muslim para makapag-Hajj. Sabihin mo anong importante sa iyo, yung bahay mo o yung Hajj? And he would readily say, sa Hajj. At gusto ko, Mayor, na magpunta ako doon. At sana kung ibigay ni Allah, doon na sana ako mamatay at ilibing. If you can understand the culture, then we're the blessed person in the society. Pag naintindihan ninyo yan,
The president also defended those sponsored were poor and elderly. COA should also regard the diversion of the Marawi rehabilitation funds as a pacification campaign. The chief executive also mentioned what can happen if COA insists on its decision of disallowance on HUD-C.
kasi ang COA, pag hinabol mo yung 5 million na yan, then, so ngayon, sabihin ko kay COA, huwag mong prisuhin yan si Del Rosario, kasi kung prisuhin mo na, pati ako mademanda, pati si Inday, pag na-demanda ang anak ko, pati ako, mapriso ako, mag-revolt kami uli dito sa Mindanao. Kayo ang bahala.
Meanwhile, President Duterte proposed the government's allotment of funds for the Hajj of Filipino Muslims.
You want peace? All of you, you want peace? Filipino, you want peace? Oh, let us invest on peace. Gumastos ka. Hindi mo binibili dito. Tinutulungan mo lang ang kapwa mong Pilipino na ang reliyon Islam. Let us invest on peace.
Rosa Licoz, UNTV, News and Rescue, Philippines.
President Rodrigo Duterte vows to preserve fragile peace in Mindanao and uphold the welfare and highs of all Muslim Filipinos. The chief executive made the statement during the Eid al-Fitr celebration in Davao City last night. He also warned that extremists planning to sow violence in the region will be dealt with by the full force of the law.
Allow me to take this moment to assure you that this administration will endeavor to preserve the fragile peace that we have built in this region that I call home. Allow me to take this moment to assure you that through the National Commission of Muslim Filipinos, we will consistently uphold the rights and welfare of all Muslim Filipinos, and for that matter, for all Filipinos. Any form of violence against the Muslim community or any other tribe, especially those arising from religious extremism, hatred, discrimination, and misguided beliefs will never be tolerated and will be dealt with by the full force of the law.
The World Health Organization said 1 of 4 Ebola cases are undetected in Congo. Kath Dumaraos will tell us why.
Roughly a quarter of Ebola infections in eastern Congo are estimated to be going undetected or found too late. Dr. Mike Ryan, Executive Director of WHO's Health Emergencies Program, said some 2,025 cases and 1,357 deaths have been recorded since the epidemic began in August in the Democratic Republic of Congo's North Kivu and Ituri provinces.
We are definitely missing cases because when you have community deaths like that and probable cases, then you are definitely missing transmission. And the $1 billion question is, how big is that number?
It is the second worst outbreak of the virus on record. Ryan adds some 88 infections have been detected each of the last 2 weeks, down from a peak of 126 weekly in April, and WHO teams are following up on 15,000 suspected contacts each day, a huge number who require checking for symptoms.
Transmission in the zone continues to be complex. More than 1/5 of cases seek healthcare in another health zone entirely before they're detected, which means 1/5 of cases are moving not only out of a health area, but moving out of an entire health zone and are very often presenting for the first time in a health facility that's very far away from where they actually lived.
He said the epidemic was not under control and was spreading fast in the rural area of Mabalaco. Ryan adds that risks to aid workers had decreased of late, but noted a deadly attack on civilians earlier this week. A local official said 13 civilians were killed late on Monday in an attack by the Allied Democratic Forces, a group thought to be linked to Islamic State. Ryan stressed that greater political engagement is needed to combat the Ebola outbreak. Kat Dumaraos, UNTV News and Rescue.
Teachers in an elementary school located in a mountainous barangay in Zamboanga City travel a long distance to reach their students. Dante Amento will tell us why.
A teacher with the ability to inspire students is the type of teacher who will be long remembered. As one of the most influential role models for developing students, a great educator connects with pupils and reaches them on multiple levels. And these are the kind of teachers Upper Masaba Elementary Schools has. The school is located in the mountainous barangay of Kinipot in Zamboanga City, Zamboanga del Sur Province. Despite the long, muddy, steep walk and ride to the school, the teachers come here every day to educate and inspire their students. No mountain, mud or distance hinder them for continuously coming for the school children's education.
Yung pinaka-essence kasi na nilagay itong school na to is to cater yung mga batang nasa taas na 2 oras din na naglalakad.
The pupils, small as they are, will surely remember their teachers' sacrifices for them.
Tapi di gracias kung ka na ma'am kay making kay ulan taso bilang siyempre sila. Ensinya suwiin sinya lang kunamon. Mas importante sila suwiin sinya para kunamon.
The teachers hope the road that leads to the school will be constructed, if not soon, in the future, for their and the students' sake. Dante Amento, UNTV, News and Rescue, Zamboanga City.
A former Bureau of Corrections head testified today in the trial of Senator Laila de Lima's drug-related case before the Muntinlupa Regional Trial Court Branch 205. Rafael Ragos, who was Bucor's officer in charge, maintained he delivered cash from New Bilibid prison to de Lima's house twice in 2012. He supposedly saw the money in his bed when, upon waking up at an inmate named Hans Tan, ordered him to deliver to De Lima, who was then the Secretary of the Department of Justice. De Lima's lawyer, Boni Tacardon, however, said Ragos could not explain how he, being the acting Bucor chief at the time, would obey an inmate's directive. Tacardon also wonders how the 5 million pesos cash landed in Ragos' room so easily. Trial of the case will resume next Friday, June 14, when the cross-examination on Ragos' testimony by the defense counsels. Meanwhile, commuters are in for a treat as the Light Rail Transit Line 2 will give free rides on June 12 in celebration of Independence Day. The Light Rail Transit Authority, or LRTA, which manages LRT2, announced that commuters could avail of free rides from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. on Wednesday. Similarly, the Light Rail Transit Line 1, or LRT1, and Metro Rail Transit Line 3, or MRT3, have early announced they will be giving free rides to commuters also on Independence Day. And for the news abroad, here's Stephanie C. reporting live from Hong Kong. Stephanie, good evening.
Good evening, William. Mexico has deployed 6,000 members of its National Guard on its border with Guatemala in an attempt to stem the flow of migrants heading to the U.S. Nina Armilio tells us why.
Mexican soldiers, armed police, and migration officials blocked hundreds of migrants after they crossed the border from Guatemala in a caravan into southern Mexico on Wednesday and detained dozens of them. The Mexican response in the border town of Metapa, which included dozens of soldiers, marked a toughening of the government's efforts to curb the flow of mainly Central American migrants, said a witness from a migrant aid group.
We have informed the United States that in Mexico we have set up the National Guard, that it is constitutionally legal, and the National Guard can cover regions in the southern border area. We have explained that there are 6,000 men and that they will be deployed there.
The operation in Chiapas coincided with a meeting of Mexican and U.S. officials at the White House on Wednesday to thrash out a deal that would avoid blanket tariffs on Mexico threatened by U.S. President Donald Trump last week. Trump announced the tariffs in retaliation for what he called Mexico's failure to stop Central American migrants from reaching the U.S. border. Vice President Mike Pence said he was encouraged that Mexican officials were willing to do more to curb migration flows to the United States. But it was up to President Trump to decide if they went far enough to avert threatened tariffs.
This president has no higher priority than ending the crisis of illegal immigration that is flooding our southern border. People are being hurt on both sides of the border. And the president's made it clear that it's time for Mexico to act, to take such actions necessary to stem this enormous flow of illegal immigrants to our border.
Mexico's National Migration Institute said in a statement that a group of about 300 people entered Mexico by a border bridge Wednesday morning, and another 120 people joined the group as they walked to the city of Tapachula. The migrants later agreed to be taken by bus to a migration office to be processed, the INM said. U.S. border officers apprehended more than 132,000 people crossing from Mexico in May, a third more than in April and the highest monthly level since 2006, reaching what U.S. officials said on Wednesday were crisis levels. Nina Armilio, UNTV, News and Rescue.
Facebook Incorporated is no longer allowing pre-installation of its apps on Huawei phones, the latest blow for the Chinese tech giant as it struggles to keep its business afloat in the face of a U.S. ban on its purchase of American parts and software. Customers who already have Huawei phones will still be able to use its apps and receive updates, Facebook said. But new Huawei phones will no longer be able to have Facebook, WhatsApp, and Instagram apps pre-installed. Smartphone vendors often enter business deals to pre-install popular apps such as Facebook. Apps including Twitter and Booking.com also come pre-installed on Huawei phones in many markets. Twitter Incorporated declined to comment, and Booking Holdings did not respond to a request. The move by Facebook dampens the sales outlook for Huawei Technologies Co. Limited, whose smartphone business became its biggest revenue generator last year, powered by strong growth in Europe and Asia.
In Mexico, tourists from a cruise ship intended to reach Havana arrived in Mexico's Cozumel on Thursday after the administration of United States President Donald Trump slapped new travel bans on Cuba. Obama's successor, President Donald Trump, aims to punish Cuba's communist government, especially for its alliance with Venezuela, by tightening the rules once more. Yet Cubans say those who will really suffer are the people, including the private sector workers the United States purports to support. Tourism revenues, the country's second biggest source of hard currency, already slumped nearly 5% last year, according to official data. That was partly the result of an earlier round of Trump administration restrictions. The Cuban government has said it is aiming for tourism income to increase 5.8% this year, but it is hard to see how it can reach that goal now. Kat Dumaraos, UNTV News and Rescue.
And those are the news from the other parts of the globe. Back to you, William.
Thank you very much, Stephanie C., reporting live from Hong Kong. Russia's top chemical companies celebrate the periodic table's 150th anniversary by building a flower wall. Jovic Burmas will tell us why.
Two top Russian agricultural chemical companies marked the anniversary of the table of chemical elements by presenting a joint company stand made of flowers. About 100,000 flowers were used to create the colorful cube. The names of chemical elements were on one side and a St. Petersburg iconic drawbridge view on the other.
It is anniversary of Mendelev's periodic table, so we made it. And since we are in St. Petersburg, there are drawbridges on the other side.
The table was discovered by Russian chemist Dmitry Mendeleev 150 years ago in 1869. It is considered to be one of the most significant achievements in science. United Nations General Assembly and UNESCO proclaimed 2019 as the International Year of the Periodic Table of Chemical Elements. Jovic Bermas, UNTV News and Rescue.
An Afghanistan refugee taught herself design and now converts rubber dinghies and life jackets into designer bags in Greece. Mirasol Abogadil will tell us why.
Bent over a sewing machine, Fariba Amini stitches her latest design using the unlikeliest of fabrics, a sheet from a discarded rubber dinghy like the one that brought her and thousands more refugees to Greece. The Afghan fled to Greece in 2016 with no documents and few prospects. Now, she makes and sells bags and jewelry out of the starkest symbol of Europe's refugee crisis, the boats and life jackets once strewn across Greece's shores.
The bags remind me of how I got here, and the bracelets remind me of the days when I was at the camp, those bad times. Then when I started working on my sewing, they were like a balm to my soul. I mean, they brought me peace.
The basement of the bare bones studio in downtown Athens she shares with other asylum seeker designers is stacked with black and gray scraps of inflatable boats, red life jackets, and piles of straps. The studio's orange wall is decorated with many of her creations: sleek black backpacks, messenger bags, and purses. In 2016, Amini and her family set off on the short but dangerous sea journey from Turkey to Greece and ended up in a dire, makeshift camp in the former Athens airport, where thousands lived in tents in the arrivals terminal with little food and frequent violence. To get by, Amini taught herself to make intricate designs watching YouTube videos. It was not long before she sold them at bazaars and to friends. With the help of her husband, an Afghan designer she met in Greek language lessons, Amini creates bags and jewelry for a small German organization supporting refugees, as well as selling them online and at various spots in Athens. Despite her successes, her designs remind her of the perilous journey she and others took.
Sometimes I think about the people who drown in the sea and who are no longer with us. It is really difficult for me.
Mirasol Abogadil, UNTV, News and Rescue.
And those are the reasons behind the news this June 7, 2019. On behalf of Angelo Castro III, I am William Theo, and before we close, we will recap with today's significant sound bites. Because we need to know, we will always ask why. Good evening.
Whether I like it or not, you have to accept your garbage because I'm going to send it to you and I'll just discharge it in your water. Aristuhin ninyo yung sundalo ko. Gira tayo. Yan ang ibig kong sabihin.
Kasi ako, I'm abstaining in the one because ako, in the first place, my vote was that, hindi dapat ang credit.
Yung pinaka-essence kasi na nilagay itong school na to is to cater yung mga batang nasa taas na 2 oras din na naglalakad.
People are being hurt on both sides of the border. And the president's made it clear that it's time for Mexico to act, to take such actions necessary to stem this enormous flow of illegal immigrants to our border.
He's sick. I don't care what he calls it. He committed crimes. We're going to prove it. You don't do that to children. You don't do that to adults. You can't hide behind some religious veil.